Hi, I'm Carlin Borisenko. In early 2020, I was the knitting Democrat who accidentally went viral on the internet for going to a Trump rally and then left the party. I became the conservative darling, was on all the shows, traveled around the country, and then realized that conservatives were no better than Democrats. If there's one thing that I've learned, it's that both political tribes are two sides of the same coin. But it wasn't all bad. On my journey, I became obsessed with understanding the woke ideology and the culture war. I broke the story of the city of Seattle doing segregated training with its employees.
How bad has this stuff become? The city of Seattle has now put out, I'm not kidding you, this is according to Dr. Carolyn Borisenko, who's an organizational psychologist. The city of Seattle asked its white employees to voluntarily spend a day off in a training about their internalized racial superiority.
I broke the story that led to the first ever federal lawsuit against critical race theory in the schools. I broke the Coke Be Less White story, one of the biggest anti-woke stories of all time. It got over 30 million views. Coca-Cola's corporate headquarters even had to change their outgoing voicemail.
Throughout the past few days, you may have seen inaccurate reporting on the content of our recently launched diversity, equity, and inclusion training program.
I exposed the schools in Burlington, Vermont for grooming middle school children live on the internet. They called me an unwoke cult leader for that. And the Vermont Human Rights Commission slandered me publicly as being a hate channel. I even got called a hero in Breitbart for exposing that the Washington Post was writing a hit piece on Christopher Rufo. I have broken story after story after story about what's going on in the public schools, from Cambridge, Massachusetts, to autistic sex education, to the Department of Education in Michigan, literally training teachers all over the state how to groom children. I wrote a book called Actively Unwoke, the ultimate guide for fighting back against the woke insanity in your life. I host a podcast all about fighting back, and I'm downloading all of my knowledge to you on my Substack, carlin.substack.com. The world is a crazy place. We are literally surrounded by cults on all sides. On this show, we're going to do a deep dive into all aspects of the culture war, and I will show you the dark, dystopian underbellies on both sides. Here are the commitments I'll make to you. I will always tell you the truth. I will always bring you receipts. And if you stick with me, I promise you will see the world differently. Welcome to the cult. Please mount that like button for me and subscribe if you feel so inclined. Well, hello, everyone. I just got back from a rock concert. How are you guys doing? Tonight, I saw in Boston one of my favorite bands, Placebo. I have loved Placebo for years and years and years. This is not the first time I've seen them live. I saw them live before. But they're always amazing, by the way. It was an incredible show. And I have some video from it that I maybe wasn't supposed to take the video. And but you know, I'm sneaky like that. Hey, man. If I can infiltrate socialism, I can sure as shit infiltrate a rock concert. Come on. But we did get home early. I mean, early, midnight, relatively early for me because I go to bed at like 3 or 4 in the morning. And so I was like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's do it because our faithful narrator, H.G. Tudor, who strung us along last night. Didn't that man, that guy really, he was, and you knew, I really should have known. I really should have known that he was going to do this. When he released the first 3 videos on Is Steven Crowder a Narcissist, I should have known that it was but a tease, that it was to get us all excited, get us all warmed up, and that he wasn't going to let this go quickly. I should have known when we did our first stream, watching the first 3 videos, but I was like, how much could he really have to say about Steven Crowder being a narcissist? He usually doesn't cover this sort of thing, and so I really thought that was going to be all it was, but no. Today, and by the way, if you were not here for our first stream about H.G. Tudor's perception of Steven Crowder being a narcissist and whether or not he isn't, whether he is or isn't rather, you need to go back and watch the first part. Okay, well, I guess you don't have to. You don't have to. I mean, it's not like required reading or anything, and you'll probably still be able to follow along just fine. But there was a part 1 to this. I'm not going to go into the same explanation of why I want to understand HG Tudor's opinion on this. I'm not going to go into what I think the situation is, because I've done that already, guys. I've done it already. I did it in part 1 of this, where we watched the first 3 videos in this series. I have done, it feels like, 87 live streams about Steven Crowder, even though it's only been like 3, maybe 4. Who's counting? But it feels like a lot already. And so what I don't want to do in this stream, because it is already 12:39 Eastern time in the morning, and I just got back from a rock concert. And so, substances may have been consumed. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say what substances were consumed, but substances may have been consumed, all right? And so I don't want to go into another big long drawn out explanation, because you guys know me. I'm going to feel like I'm talking for 15 minutes, and then I'm going to wake up and it's going to be an hour later and we haven't even started the videos yet. But I will do a too long didn't read. But why are you always accusing me of getting high on the internet? But I don't know, like, you really need to rein it in, bot. I would never do such a thing, like get high on the internet. That would never ever happen. I am a professional, bot. God. So, the lowdown is this. And we're really going to do, like, if I go longer than 3 minutes on this explanation, I really need the chat to, like, cut me off. All right? You guys need to speak up. The too long didn't read is this. If you have never read or watched HG Tudor before, because he writes a lot, he is a prolific writer, but he also makes a metric F ton of videos. If you have never watched him before, first of all, I strongly recommend you do, because he is incredibly insightful about all things narcissistic. And the reason that he's incredibly insightful about all things narcissistic is that he is a diagnosed narcissistic psychopath in real life, in the wild. And I have consumed enough of this man's content at this point that I absolutely believe that he is what he says he is. Either he absolutely is what he says he is, or he has created enough content and spent so much time doing it that he has convinced himself that he is what he says he is. And when I say he's a narcissistic psychopath, there's an additional factor to this, in that he is fully self-aware of what he is and why he does what he does. And so a lot of the videos that he makes, it is explaining to people the inner workings of the mindset of a narcissistic psychopath. But for my money, his books are even better, to be quite honest, because you get so much more of the good stuff in his books, and he's written like 7,000 of them. Okay, maybe not that many, but like a lot. And anyway, his work is really good, and I follow it because I think that he is extremely insightful about psychology. He has taught me a lot about narcissism, and I've actually used that in my work. I have used his work to really help clarify for myself what I think the motivations of the woke left are, because I do think sometimes narcissism has a role in it, and I think sometimes narcissism does not have a role in it. Oh yes, he is the real life Patrick Bateman. I'm pretty sure he kind of models himself on Patrick Bateman, because he talks about American Psycho every once in a while, and he kind of like, he does the same things that Patrick Bateman does. And he wrote a whole, was it a book or was it, he talks about how the narcissist engages with like sex a lot, which is fascinating. By the way, guys, if you want to know all you really need to know about a person, you need to listen to them talk about sex, because how a person talks about sex will tell you everything you need to know about a person. Anyway, so I was listening to him one time a long, long time ago. And he was talking about how he actually, the part of the American Psycho where Patrick Bateman is like, having a threesome with the prostitutes, and he's like, he's not even paying attention to the prostitutes. He's like looking at himself in the mirror and like flexing his muscle. HG Tudor has literally talked about doing that. He's talked about like having mirrors all over the place so he can see himself and admire himself. So yeah, real life Patrick Bateman for sure. Anyway, I think that he's very smart about narcissism, obviously. And I was surprised to find that he did a series analyzing Steven Crowder. Now, hang on, pause. Seed fan. We don't do this shit here. No. I'm about to make an example of you, my friend. You are in my house. In my house, there are 2 rules. Number 1, don't be a dick. You will not insult me. You will not insult other people in the chat. Number 2, no whining. Now that I have told you to stop being a dick, I don't want to hear any whining. I don't want to hear any back talk. I don't want to hear any complaining. I just want you to shut the fuck up. And if you can't get your head around that, you are welcome to leave my house, because I can say whatever I want to anyone in my house, to include you. You don't have to be here, my friend. We keep it chill. It is almost 1 a.m. We don't need to be douches right now, bro. I just got back from a concert. I had a really nice night. A lot of other people have had a really nice night as well. Don't ruin it with your bullshit. Everyone, chill. All right? I hope that's the last warning I have to give tonight, because I would really like to get into this content. So, HG Tudor is doing this series about, he's analyzing, is Steven Crowder a narcissist? And in part 1 of this, which we did last night, I think, we watched the first 3 videos in the series. Now, I did not know there was going to be a part 2 when I did that. I did not know there was going to be a part 2 at the time. But HG Tudor, in his typical fashion, he teased us. That trolly mother effer, and I say that with the deepest of appreciation and admiration. I was actually deeply satisfied. I was like, HG Tudor is just, he's doing his narcissistic thing to really string us all along, to keep us on the edge of our seats before he hopefully like delights us with the answer. And I have to say that I talked a little bit about whether or not I thought Steven Crowder was a narcissist in the first part of this series. I don't know that I've changed my opinion. Basically, my opinion is essentially that I think he could be a narcissist. I think there are certainly traits he has of that could lead someone to diagnose him as a narcissist. However, I also am inclined to believe that a lot of the stuff that he does is just he's an entertainer. He is a showman. He is doing what he needs to do to be successful in the business that he is in. And Steven Crowder is monumentally successful at the business that he's in. And so I don't know if I think he's a narcissist. I think he has some narcissistic traits. But I also think I also think he has a profound lack of self-esteem in some respects, which narcissists do too. I mean, narcissists, like, they try to rein that shit in. They bury that lack of self-esteem deep within their soul. I think HG Tudor calls it, what does he call it? The creature, I think. But I mean, Steven Crowder could potentially have that. I'm not so sure. I wonder if HG Tudor is going to string us along through a 7-part video series and get to the end of it. And we know it's the end because if we look at part 7, it says conclusion. Excellent. I wonder if he's going to string us along through a 7-part series and then at the end be like, Steven Crowder has many attributes of narcissism, and I can understand why some people might say he is a narcissist. But ultimately, he is not a narcissist for reasons X, Y, B, and Z. I kind of wonder if that's going to be the outcome. And if that's the outcome, I have to say, like, kudos to HG Tudor. Kudos. I like if that is the outcome, I actually think that would be the most hilarious possible outcome, which to me would be the best possible outcome. but I guess we'll see. I would like you guys to register an opinion in the chat. Let me put a poll in. Do you think Crowder is a narcissist? Yes, no. And I'm only giving you 2 options, guys, because I don't want any in-betweeners. I'm allowed to be like Amber. I'm allowed to be like, I don't know, maybe yes, maybe no, because it's my show, it's my house, I can do what I want. But you guys have to make a decision. So I only put yes or no in the poll, and we'll see what happens. Reagan says it should have been an 8-part series. I agree, Reagan. I do not like odd numbers. It's a thing. I don't know if it's quite a phobia, but I have a strong, strong, strong dislike of odd numbers. I like it when things are even and round out. I don't know why that is exactly. Let's see. But thank you guys for joining me tonight on this impromptu stream. And basically what we're going to do is we are going to continue watching HG Tudor's video analysis, starting with part 4, because we have already watched part 1, part 2, and part 3 in part 1 of this series. If you haven't seen it yet and you want to go back to the beginning, you have to go back into one stream ago, not too long ago. But to be honest, you didn't really miss that much because HG Tudor hasn't really said anything about the current times. So basically in part 1, he introduced the series in general. It says, I'm doing a thing about Steven Crowder. Okay, fine. In part 2, I believe that he analyzed something about like basically a general bio of Steven Crowder, where it talked about how he spoke at CPAC back in like 2011, 2012, something like that. He then analyzed like an older Steven Crowder thing where he went to some sort of AFP thing, and there was something going on. This was way before I even knew who Steven Crowder was. So, I mean, it was interesting information. I had never heard about that story or those stories before, but really we haven't gotten to the good stuff yet. All right. And so tonight we're going to start with part 4. And then I think in part 5 and 6, he's going to do the video analysis of like the actual video where Steven is like not being so nice to his pregnant wife. And then in part 7, he's going to give us his conclusion. Is Steven Crowder a narcissist? According to the poll right now, it looks like 58% of you say no. He is not. I'm kind of swinging that way right now, if I'm honest about it. I think what HG Tudor is doing in this series is he's picking out things that people might say are narcissistic things, and he's saying, did he do this because he's a narcissist, or are there other reasons that he did this? So I'm kind of leaning slightly towards no, I don't think Crowder is a narcissist right now. But I guess we'll find out. I still believe he absolutely could be. And I do, generally speaking, trust HG Tudor's judgment on this because this is what he does. He talks to people all the time about this topic. Like, you have to trust the experts at some point. And so that's where I'm kind of landing on that. All right, guys, let's pop into it and just get started. And I just need to set up my sound here. Guys, please go ahead and mount that like button for me if you have not already. Let's see. There it is. We are starting with part 4 of HG Tudor series. Is Steven Crowder a narcissist? Wait a minute. This is a long... Gotta have dark eyeliner at a rock concert, Jennifer. That's a rule.
Steven Crowder, Narcissist, Part 4. We continue our examination of the evidence in relation to Steven Crowder's behavior, and this time examine an article from Rolling Stone by Nikki McCann Ramirez, which reports on his spat with the Daily Wire.
Oh, good.
Far
Oh, we're getting into Daily Wire feud. I'm going to be fascinated to see what HG Tudor thinks of this one. He's probably going to say that recording the Daily Wire phone call was a lack of boundary recognition and also possibly part of a smear campaign, and so that might indicate narcissist, would be my guess.
Bright YouTuber Steven Crowder has kicked off a public feud with the Daily Wire after the right-wing news outlet approached him with a measly 4-year contract offer worth a pitiful $50 million.
It was a pitiful $50 million.
And some fiduciary obligations on his part.
It was pitiful.
Pausing there, you would think that such an offer would be seen as pretty decent for many people. Of course, Crowder believes that he's worth more.
Crowder is provably worth more money than $50 million in $50 million over 4 years, plus paying all his own production costs. He is absolutely worth more money than that. There's no question about it. Steven says, Carlin, is your hubby jealous of my obsession with H.G. Tudor? First of all, I'm not obsessed with H.G. Tudor. Like, I like his takes on things. And he's taught me a lot about psychology, but I'm not obsessed with him. So no, I would not say my husband is jealous. I watch way more royal gossip that is not H.G. Tudor, because he doesn't like a lot of Meghan Markle stuff than I watch of H.G. Tudor. So I watch way more gossipy stuff. You guys just don't know about it because I don't watch it on a live stream. I don't want you to see me at my worst. Although I am considering getting up extremely early next week to stream the coronation. I don't know if I can do it yet, but like, because it's really effing early, I might just have to stay up all night and get like really loopy and like stream the coronation on no sleep. That might actually be kind of fun, but I am considering doing it because I am obsessed with royal things. And so that might be the one peak you guys get into my obsession with royal things, which I'm way more obsessed with than narcissism. So I'm sorry to burst your bubble there. Let me see. Where's the other chat I wanted to respond to? Am I obsessed with socialism? Yes. Yes. I am far more obsessed with socialism. No offense, H.G. Tudor, but I am far more obsessed with socialism. Am I psychic? Little bit, yeah. I am an empath, darling. Not how H.G. Tudor would define as an empath, but I can pick up on the emotional undertones of any given situation, and my intuition is on point. I have worked very hard developing my intuition. It's really effing good. Anyway, let's keep going.
He might be right about that, but it does exhibit a sense of entitlement. Furthermore, what began as a private contract proposal has devolved into a public spat. Ordinarily, of course, individuals, if they're negotiating about what they're worth, they would keep it private. But it's more likely that a narcissist would want to take matters public as a means of dealing with the threat to control that they face with not getting their own way. So let us imagine, for instance...
Hang on. Steven Crowder was the one in the power position here because Steven Crowder is worth all the money. So I don't believe that the Daily Wire saying no to Steven Crowder was a threat to Steven Crowder's control, because I don't actually think that Steven Crowder wanted to go to work for the Daily Wire. I think he was dipping his toe in the water. I think he was curious about what would happen, but I don't think Steven Crowder actually wanted to go to work for the Daily Wire. I think he wanted to see what the Daily Wire would do. So those are two different things. So I do not agree with the assessment that this was, that Steven Crowder went public with all of this because he was taken out of control in some way, because he was always the one in control. He was always the one with the better negotiating position because he didn't have to say yes.
That Mr. Crowder believes that he should get $100 million.
Yes, so that's what he's worth.
When the representatives of the Daily Wire say, here's a contract, these are some obligations and duties on your part, it's worth $50 million for you over a 4-year period, he deems that to be a threat to his control subconsciously because it's not to the value that he believes he's worth.
We've got to pause there because a super chat from Bob. How did I develop my intuition? I meditated a metric ton. I was pretty much obsessed with meditation for years, and there are specific meditations and specific teachers that you can follow that will help you develop your intuition. And we're talking like, I wasn't meditating. I still meditate. I meditate before bed every night. But like when I was developing my intuition, I was like, obsessed to the point where I was meditating 2 hours a day. And I would go on all these retreats. I went to Peru to do ayahuasca. I did ayahuasca many times out in Sedona, stuff like that. And so there are lots of things that you can do to develop your intuition. And it's just about like basically opening yourself up to what's going on. And let me tell you what, the first time I came back, when I came back from Peru, the first time I did ayahuasca, my intuition had like blown open, but I didn't know how to control it. And it led to me basically huddled up in the fetal position in the far corner of the Delta Club for like my 19-hour layover, because it really like I didn't like, all of a sudden I could sense all these things, and I knew what was going. It was just like, it was the most bizarre experience of my life. It's like all of a sudden you have access to all this information. So if you want to develop your intuition, I would suggest meditation. Learn how to meditate. If you've never meditated before, there are plenty of free ways to learn how to do it. And once you get in the habit of doing it, you can focus in your practice on specifically stuff around developing your intuition. I also am naturally empathic, so I naturally pick up on the emotional undercurrents of different situations. And I like, if you and I are having a conversation, I'm going to feel what you're feeling. And that was also really confusing to me for a long time, because I thought I was feeling it. No, it was what the other person was feeling, and was being projected on, and I could pick up on it a lot easier. So that's how I did it. I don't know if anyone else is interested in that, but that's all right. And I want to say too, guys, just going back to HG Tudor for a second. So I want to caution people, if you have never listened to him before, do not jump to conclusions about what he is saying, because this isn't really, to the very best of my understanding, this isn't really his world. And so he doesn't know the ins and the outs of all of the drama around Steven Crowder like we do. And so it might be natural for him to like trust media outlets that you and I would be like, don't ever trust that media outlet. They lie all the time. They smear people all the time. So we need to give him the benefit of the doubt here, because this is not normally like the type of stuff he covers. And so I don't want to hear like, I don't like that media outlet. Okay, I agree. But we're giving him the benefit of the doubt. And, I also think he's kind of teasing us with some of the things that he's saying. I could be wrong about that. So let's just give him the benefit of the doubt. Go easy on him. All right, let's keep going.
He isn't able to persuade them to give him what he wants. Thus, he can't directly assert control over them.
He didn't need them.
Ordinarily, an individual would try and deal with matters privately by discussing, I can offer this, and I believe that I'm worth this, and I have an audience of this size.
Yeah, but the thing of it is Steven Crowder's goal with reaching out to the Daily Wire was not necessarily to get a deal with the Daily Wire. It was to expose the Daily Wire for shoddy business practices. I can understand why HG Tudor is saying this, but like, I think something that he might miss, and he could get there, we don't know, but I think something that he might be missing is, I don't think it was actually Steven Crowder's goal to go to work for the Daily Wire. I think his goal was to expose the shoddy business practices, because he wanted to develop his own thing, and he obviously sees them as a competitor if he's developing his own thing. And that might just not be information that HG Tudor has, because no media outlet has really written about this stuff, because they aren't real journalists. They don't actually really talk about what's going on. We know what's going on because we pay attention to things, but not everyone is as crazy as us, and that's okay.
Etc., etc. Or I've got an offer from X party, which is better than what you're proposing, in an attempt to gain leverage and persuade that organization to offer a larger sum. But Crowder didn't go down that route. Instead, he took the instance public. And that suggests that there might have been something causing him to do that, so that he could gain an indirect assertion of control by trying to smear the Daily Wire by suggesting that the offer was pitiful and getting favorable public opinion, which would then give him a subconscious sense of control.
I don't think that was about control. I think that Steven Crowder was legitimately pissed off at the goings on at the Daily Wire, and the Daily Wire is pretty much the biggest organization in that particular game. And if the Daily Wire is effing up, as I would argue that they are, and they are treating content creators horribly, which is going to burn them out, which is going to impact all of us, and they're generally towing the establishment line and not pushing back when they need to because they're shills, they're controlled opposition shills. I don't think this was about control because Steven Crowder did not need to control the Daily Wire. Well, I think he might come around and get there. We don't know. We haven't listened to the whole thing. I've already interrupted like 17 times. How rude of me. But again, like, and this is why I really want to explain this. This is not his world. We are nerds about this shit, okay? We know more about what's going on with this. Like my regular viewers and I, because we talk about this stuff all the time, and I like the inner workings of organizational psychology, that sort of thing. Like, we know way more than this. Way more than he does about this because we're kind of obsessed with it. I can't knock someone or take points away because, they're not as obsessed with nonsense as we are. Come on. Like, he's probably actually more normal in this situation not to be obsessed with this. What's Candace's motivation to jump over all of it? Because Candace Owens is a narcissist. HG Tudor needs to do a series on... Well, he doesn't need to do anything. I respectfully request, without asserting control at all, that HG Tudor do a series about Candace Owens, because Candace Owens is absolutely an effing narcissist. And Steven Crowder did many things that exposed Candace Owens for what she is. And so Candace is jumping all over it because she is getting revenge and enacting a smear campaign against Steven Crowder. That's her motivation. She hates Steven Crowder. She needs to get revenge on Steven Crowder. She is a raging narcissist. Raging narcissist. And she needs to get revenge, and that's why she's doing it.
This public spat has involved long-form video responses, angry tweets, and secretly recorded phone conversations. Again, disclosing the detail of a secretly recorded phone conversation is deceitful, shows a lack of boundary recognition, a lack of emotional empathy, and a sense of entitlement. Right. Recently, Crowder launched the Stop Big Con initiative and accused conservative media giants of being no better than big tech.
Yes.
And putting profit over the honest defense of conservative values.
Yes.
In a video posted to his YouTube channel, Crowder described a period of free agency following his departure from the Blaze in December. The host lambasted proposed contracts he received from parties he refused to publicly name, which would require him to actually make content.
For those of you who are new to my channel, I talk to my chat in live streams, and that involves me pausing the video. If you want to watch the video without my commentary, you are welcome to go watch it on your own. I highly recommend you subscribe to HG Tudor's YouTube channel while you're there. But Christy has said, I wonder what penalties Matt Walsh is paying since he got bumped from YouTube. Isn't that, a little ironic? That wasn't it Matt Walsh who was one of the people that came out when Crowder, in the most based possible manner, released those phone calls, and Matt Walsh was like, I'm pretty sure it was Matt Walsh, correct me if I'm wrong, he was like, Steven, it's directly proportional to the amount of money you make, and if you get demonetized on YouTube, then it just makes sense that you're going to take a pay cut because you won't be making as much money. And now, as though karma is real, Matt Walsh is demonetized on YouTube. Oh my word. I wonder what penalties he had to pay. That is a very good question.
Content and drive revenue for the company. Is that an individual that is showing a sense of entitlement? Is this a little bit like Harry's wife? I want the money, but I don't want to do the work. At no point did Crowder specify the monetary value that had been offered to him, but it didn't take fans long to analyze context clues and redactions from screenshots Crowder displayed and deduce that the contract Crowder was torching had been offered by the Daily Wire.
I mean, everyone knew that.
Crowder, who had previously lambasted NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick for comparing the league's contracts to slavery, complained that the proposals floated to him, like the one from the Daily Wire, were essentially slave contracts. Hypocrisy. Will Summer of the Daily Beast pointed out on Thursday in November around...
Oh no. H.G. Tudor is quoting the Daily Beast. This is about to go horribly wrong. Okay, Steven Crowder was not saying that his contract was slavery. Steven Crowder was saying that the other content creators at the Daily Wire were being overworked and burnt out. I think that was his point. It was not about him. It was about the other content creators at the Daily Wire.
2 months after the Daily Wire offered Crowder $50 million, the host publicly supported Kanye West's claims that Jewish talent executives controlled the entertainment industry through exploitative contracts. Ben Shapiro, the founder and editor of the Daily Wire, is Jewish. Smearing, paranoia, conspiracy theories. Crowder particularly took issue with provisions in the offer that would penalize his compensation if the show faced advertiser boycotts or a loss of revenue that the company could not replace within a period of 90 days. If this show had to be advertiser-friendly on YouTube, well, those guidelines pretty much read, "Don't say anything offensive ever," said Crowder, who had been demonetized on YouTube. He also encouraged fans to sign onto his new email list and promised to aid in building an independent network for conservative content creators. The Daily Wire, which hosts some of the most prominent names in the reactionary right, including Shapiro, Matt Walsh, Jordan B. Peterson, and Candace Owens, was quick to respond. Co-founder and co-CEO Jeremy Boring confirmed in a 52-minute video that they had issued the offer, a non-binding term sheet, with the hope of entering negotiations with Crowder. Boring indicated that the offer was so large that it potentially put all of our investments at risk.
Well, tough cookies, because it was half of what Steven Crowder was effing worth. And it required Steven Crowder to incur all his own production costs. So it breaks down, what did it break down to? $12.5 million a year, plus he had to incur all of his own production costs? That wasn't a good deal. There, you can say $50 million, $50 million, it would put everyone else in the company at risk, $50 million. You can say that till the end of time, and that still will not make it a good deal for Steven Crowder.
And displayed an image of the initial contract offer showing a proposed $50 million over a 4-year period, with the possibility of an additional $25 million upon renewal. The contract reads like a dream. 4 weeks of paid vacation, full editorial control over content produced, a staff to help promote and adapt content, and the right to retain ownership of any content Crowder produced prior to joining the Daily Wire.
And he incurred all the production costs. Now, okay, if H.G. Tudor is getting this out of the Daily Beast, it's kind of not his fault that he's not giving accurate information, because he's getting it out of the Daily Beast. And he, again, this is not his world. So he probably, like, I don't know, maybe he doesn't know. We're allowed not to know things.
Responding to Crowder's claims that the company was doing the bidding of big tech by penalizing potential loss of advertising revenue, Boring explained that the contract represents a joint venture between the parties, meaning that both parties lose a little when revenue is affected. It would appear that this is a jolly generous contract.
No.
And therefore, the reaction of Crowder does show a massive sense of entitlement. The article continued by explaining, Steven's philosophy seems to be, I deserve to be paid millions and millions and millions of dollars, whether my show drives the revenue or not. Sense of entitlement, lack of accountability. That's not a business relationship. He's looking for a benefactor.
No.
Boring told viewers. He also revealed that in a phone call with Crowder following the publication of his video on Thursday, the host indicated he believed he was worth closer to $30 million a year. You can't just say we're going to pay you $50 million even if the show doesn't bring in any money. Adding that $50 million minus 25% is not punishment by the standards.
How there is no universe in which that show would not have brought the Daily Wire money. I don't care if Steven Crowder was completely demonetized on YouTube. There was no reality that exists in this timeline, in this simulation that we're all stuck in which Steven Crowder would not have made money for the Daily Wire. He had merchandise, he had Mug Club, he would have brought all of his, well, maybe not all of his subscribers, but a substantial portion of his subscribers with him to the Daily Wire. Like, there were so many things that they could have done in terms of like premium content, exclusive content, etc., 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 that would have come with Steven Crowder, and that has nothing at all to do with YouTube monetization. I mean, like ad sales, ad reads, we aren't even talking about that. That would have come with Steven Crowder if he had wanted to do that sort of thing, which I don't think he likes doing ad reads. So that was, I think, another factor in the contract. But like YouTube monetization is like the tip of the iceberg in the way that Steven Crowder could have been monetized by the Daily Wire. But again, I don't think that Steven Crowder ever actually wanted to go to work for the Daily Wire. I think he just wanted to see what would happen.
Of any human being. On Thursday night, Crowder played portions of the phone call, sense of entitlement, lack of boundary recognition, which he had recorded without Burring's knowledge in a response video. Crowder indicated that his frustration wasn't about the money. No, actually, although he doesn't realize this, it's about his subconscious need for control, but about a larger opposition to conservative media companies being dependent on advertising guidelines designed by social media companies and the people who hate everything we stand for. It is incumbent upon conservatives, if we believe what we say, to uncouple, to divest from big tech. Crowder said to not rely on playing ball with Facebook and with YouTube to grow their movement. In the recorded call, Crowder encouraged Burring to restructure the business model of the Daily Wire. Again, that shows a sense of entitlement, saying, it's your business, but I'm going to tell you how to run it. When Crowder questioned the CEO as to whether up-and-coming talent were offered similar terms in their contract, Burring replied in the affirmative, at one point telling Crowder that it was perfectly normal for young creators to become wage slaves for a little bit to grow their brand. I will play the part of that call where we talked about our kids' Christmas and him buying baby formula for his brother's children, Burring tweeted after Crowder's video went live, but I wouldn't even know how to secretly record phone calls with my friends, which demonstrates a particular slapdown of the behavior of Crowder. The back and forth has prompted responses from many in conservative media, especially those working at the Daily Wire. Co-founder Ben Shapiro said on his Thursday show that there was something rather nasty about attacking people who have been friends for over a decade on the basis of your own.
They were never friends. They were never friends. This is something that I think people who watch YouTubers like don't really understand, but I have been in this world and I have been in this sphere with these people. And here is one thing that I have learned for sure. These people are never friends. They're acquaintances. They play nice when they need to. They help each other out every once in a while when it makes sense for both of them, but never, ever, ever make the mistake of believing that these people are friends in real life, because they will stab each other in the back at the drop of a hat if it means maintaining their status, making money, getting more famous, what have you. These people will quite literally, they do not care about human relationships at all. In fact, I'm rather convinced that a lot of them don't even know how to have human relationships, maybe here or there. But, you know, like Ben Shapiro is not Steven Crowder's friend. Jeremy Boring was not Steven Crowder's friend. Guess what? Friends don't offer you bullshit contracts. Yes, exactly. They're like coworkers at most. You can be cordial with your coworkers. You can go out to beer with your coworkers, etc., 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 but never ever trust them. Never trust them. Never expect them to stand up for you when it matters. Never count on them to be there, because they won't be there, because they care about themselves more than anything. They care about their status and their fame and their fans. Not even their fans. They don't actually really care about their fans, but like they care about themselves and what they can get out of this more than anything. And they will do anything to maintain that. Yes, that's exactly right, Emily. The Daily Wire saying that Crowder was friends with them was a narrative. It was the Daily Wire's talking points to make you guys think that they were the poor victim in this situation and that Steven Crowder is the big mean bully. No. No, no, no. Friends don't offer friends shitty contracts.
And misinterpretation of a document that offers you $50 million. Following the revelation that Crowder recorded his call with Boehring, Shapiro called Crowder's actions despicable. Candace Owens, who joined the outlet in 2021, called Crowder's actions a bitch move and raised allegations that he had mistreated employees while working at The Blaze. Matt Walsh stressed that he and other Daily Wire hosts are in no way censored by their employer. The suggestion that we're being somehow muzzled or controlled is blatantly absurd, he wrote. Walsh would later respond to a supporter of Crowder telling him that no one should trust the sort of man who secretly records phone calls with his friends and then publishes.
Matt Walsh has stolen my work and pawned it off as his own on multiple occasions. The most egregious of which was the cameras in classrooms idea that I came up with, that I went viral on Twitter for, that I completely vetted, that I was working on actually trying to get legislation written for. And then all of a sudden, Matt Walsh is sending out emails from the Daily Wire's email account saying, I've just had this great idea about cameras in classrooms. And mysteriously, he had every single one of my talking points to a T, like down to the letter. And then he went on Tucker Carlson saying, Tucker, I've got this amazing new idea, this amazing new initiative. We're going to do cameras in classrooms. This was weeks after I had gone viral on Twitter to the tune of over 2 million views on these tweets asserting that we needed to put cameras in classrooms. Matt Walsh literally stole all my talking points, used it as a fundraiser out to the Daily Wire, went on Tucker Carlson, pretended it was his idea. And guess what Matt Walsh did with cameras in classrooms? Nothing. He did nothing with it. He did nothing. He talked about it for a week. He went on Tucker Carlson and claimed it was his. He made all this big deal. The Daily Wire made this whole big deal out of it. And then they did nothing. And that 100% came from me. Matt Walsh even had state legislators in New Hampshire saying, Matt, this is not your fucking idea. This came from Carlin. The same ones I was talking to about legislation said publicly, Matt, this was not your effing idea. But did he ever apologize? No, of course not. That's not even the only time Matt Walsh has stolen something I was doing and claimed it as his own. So I don't give a flying fuck about what Matt Walsh's opinions are about Steven Crowder's behavior, because if anyone thinks that Matt Walsh is above board, I'm sorry, you've had the wool pulled over your eyes, and I'm not the only person he's done this to. He has done this to multiple activists. I'm not going to tell their stories, but he has done this to multiple people. He doesn't come up with anything on his own. At some point, people are going to realize this. Maybe we're there yet, maybe we're not. I have no idea.
Boehring threw in a jab on Thursday about how Crowder has always been buoyed by companies with their own interests. Stevens never had to create the company that actually distributes, markets, and monetizes the content, he said, adding that the whole time I've known him has worked for someone else, has been paid by someone else. He's not exactly a self-made man. So this spat, certainly shows a sense of entitlement on the part of Crowder, a lack of accountability for his actions, responses to potential threats to control, a need to have that control. But it doesn't end there. As reported in the Daily...
Well, I came up with cameras in classrooms on my own. I came up with cameras in classrooms one night while I was high and laying in bed, and I was thinking about how there's a camera in every doggy daycare, and there are also cameras in daycares that parents can log on to their phones and see what's going on. And I sent out a random tweet saying, "What if we put cameras in classrooms so that every parent of a kid in that class can log on to a live stream and see what their kids or teachers are teaching?" I came up with that idea completely on my own. Then the tweet accidentally went viral on Twitter to the tune of over 2 million views. And I started getting a lot of feedback because when I woke up the next morning, because I tweeted that out about 1 a.m. in the morning, when I woke up the next morning, the woke left and the progressives and the socialists were all pissed off about it and they were sending it all over the internet. That's how it got so many views. And I was like, huh, well, if the left doesn't like this idea, then maybe there's some there. I actually wrote about cameras in classrooms in my book, Actively Unwoke, The Ultimate Guide for Fighting Back Against the Woke Insanity in Your Life. I have a whole section about cameras in classrooms telling you every single objection to the idea and how to get around the idea. So yeah, I'm going to say that I came up with that original idea on my own. Now, to this point, and I did not know this when I came up with it, this is something that special needs parents had been actually asking for a really long time, because special needs parents wanted cameras on their kids in the classroom because they thought the teachers were abusing them, and they wanted cameras to be able to find out what the teachers were doing with their kids. But my idea was not about having cameras on the kids. My idea was about having cameras on the teachers to find out what they're teaching, because God knows they're never going to be honest about it, ever.
Beast. Right-wing shock jock Stephen Crowder tossed a grenade into the conservative web show world this week when he accused fellow pundit Candace Owens of trying to extort him with details of his divorce.
Candace did.
Separation he blamed on his wife. Provocation. Smearing. Days later, Crowder is now on the back foot with...
If H.G. Tudor says that Candace Owens is an innocent victim of Stephen Crowder's narcissism, I don't know if I can ever watch H.G. Tudor again. I will be so upset. I don't think he's going to do that, but please, God, let him not do it. Don't ruin it, HG. Don't do this to me.
Crowder's attorney reportedly rebuffing a cease and desist letter from Owens, with Crowder's ex-wife's family releasing a statement accusing Crowder of emotional abuse. More of that later. Crowder, the host of the show Louder with Crowder, has been in divorce proceedings since 2021. He announced on his show on Tuesday. Crowder claimed he made the announcement in response to veiled threats from fans on the right, namely Candace Owens, who hosts her own show on the Daily Wire. Crowder played clips from a January episode of Owens' show in which Owens attributed a feud between Crowder and the Daily Wire to unspecified personal issues in Crowder's life. Crowder suggested that those comments, plus alleged behind-the-scenes attacks, amounted to extortion, and that Owens was threatening to leak information about his divorce, demonstrating there a response to perceived threats to control, paranoia. If you're familiar with the idea of extortion, then you know the feeling well, Crowder told his audience, going on to claim that some other issues or inferences have been more pernicious behind the scenes, with demands and threats to use this information, which they believe would be so publicly embarrassing to me and my wife in a difficult time that it could be used, knowingly putting my children in harm's way.
I mean, come on. Does any one of us not believe that Candace Owens is capable of doing that? Come on. All right, I want to put another poll in the chat. Let's end this poll. This poll was, do you think Crowder is a narcissist? And actually, the results have shifted. 54% of you now believe that Stephen Crowder is a narcissist. All right. But I want to put a new poll in the chat. Do you think Candace Owens extorted Stephen Crowder? Yes, no. Let me know what you think about that. John says, I'm going to give you some really helpful advice. John says, I like you, Dr. K, but you're a bit obsessed with YouTube drama. None of this matters to me later. John, here's what you need to do. It's real simple. Like, this video has a bright red thumbnail on it with a picture of Stephen Crowder, and it says, is Stephen Crowder a narcissist? If you don't want to watch a video about Stephen Crowder and an analysis about whether or not he's a narcissist, you don't have to click on the thumbnail. You can just choose to watch something else. It's so easy. I promise you, you're going to be so much happier if you don't click on videos that you don't want to watch. And then tomorrow, or I guess today, later today at 5 p.m., when I am streaming a different topic at 5 p.m. Eastern time for my regular show, you can look at the thumbnail and the description and the title, and you can decide whether or not that's a topic that you're interested in. I like, it's just really simple. Don't click on things you don't want. Do click on things you do want. And if I'm not covering the topic that you want today, maybe I will be tomorrow and you can come back. There should be a Broadway musical with Dr. K, Crowder, and Candace. I don't know about that. I don't think that's a good idea. Pineapple Girl says, analyzing public drama is a way to discuss social interactions from a case everyone is familiar with. Well, I agree, Pineapple Girl. I love the psychology of this whole thing. And I also love the intrigue and all of the different like shenanigans that are going on behind the scenes. And I like using these to kind of teach you guys what's really happening, because it's usually never what's being reported in the media. And so I think that these are excellent examples that we can all take advantage of. And Manny says, let's be real here, no one covers drama better than me. Obviously. All right, guys, please mount that like button for me if you are enjoying the stream, or if you want to help bring more people into the stream, because when you mount that like button, and you can mount it in whichever way you want, you tell YouTube that you're enjoying the stream and that they should recommend it to other people. So please go ahead and make sure that's all set, and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. As I said, this is not the only type of content that I do, but it's late night stream, so anything goes. Jennifer, God, Jennifer, you're naughty tonight. What's going on? You can kick the like button, bot. Absolutely. I have not heard fresh. I don't listen to anyone, to be honest. I barely watch anyone. But should I check it out? Let me know what they think. All right, let's keep going.
Triangulation with wife, triangulation with children, disclosure of information in public. Owens has denied the extortion allegations and told the Daily Beast she sent Crowder a cease and desist. On Thursday, she said she received a response from his lawyer stating that she did not have the grounds for a defamation lawsuit.
And she
notification of threat to control. I sent him a cease and desist based off his claims, which made it very clear that he was accusing.
I mean, one could argue that Candace was taken out of control by Steven Crowder when Steven Crowder announced on his show that Candace was extorting him. That took Candace out of control, and then Candace has been haranguing Steven Crowder ever since to try to reassert control in the situation. The cease and desist letter that Candace sent to Crowder was trying to reassert control, and Crowder basically said, go F yourself, Candace. And so Candace was not successful in that regard. And so I think, my opinion, I could be wrong, I think that Candace orchestrated this entire smear campaign. I think that Candace Owens and the Daily Wire are responsible for all of this, as revenge against Steven Crowder for releasing their phone calls back in January.
Me of extortion, and heavily insinuating that something happened behind the scenes where I somehow threatened him and his child, Owens told the Daily Beast. His lawyer came back and basically said that
Candace Owens gave an interview to the Daily Beast. H.G. Tudor is reading an article from the Daily Beast, and they have a quote in the article saying Candace Owens told this to the Daily Beast. This fucking smear campaign came from Candace Owens. You are not going to convince me. Why is Candace Owens talking to the Daily Beast? There is no reality in which Candace Owens should be granting an interview to the Daily Beast unless Candace damn well knows that the Daily Beast is going to print whatever Candace wants them to print. That is a giant red flag. The fact that the Daily Beast has a quote from Candace Owens tells us all we need to know about who is driving the smear campaign in this situation.
Claims were not actionable because he was using the term extortion as a feeling. The attorney's letter states that Mr. Crowder's opinions fall far short of any defamation. At most, he's merely opined comparatively the feeling of certain misconduct to his own personal state of being. Again, at most, they are simply reminiscent, in Mr. Crowder's personal opinion, of the specifically referenced type of misconduct. The Crowder spokesperson did not return the Daily Beast request for comment. So essentially, he, Crowder, knew he was lying, Owens alleged. He knew that people would discern from it, but now he's backtracking it privately by trying to make it seem like my video made him feel like it could have been extortion, which is obviously bullshit. But this is what Stephen Crowder does. He lies for a living. Owens theorized that Crowder made his announcement now after his once ally Owen Benjamin leaked news of Crowder's divorce this week. She also speculated that the announcement was meant to distract from a recent interview in which a former Crowder employee accused Crowder of censoring him. That would be deflection. What about this? Well, Hollywood in toto, with an article by Christian Toto, leads with Landau. Stephen Crowder censored me, fellow comment. It states, Stephen Crowder said he went public with his Daily Wire contract dispute for a vital reason. The website's initial contract to Crowder, valued at $50 million for 4 years, said he'd get paid less if his show got censored by big tech platforms like YouTube. It's why Crowder signed a deal with Rumble, the free speech alternative to YouTube. That kind of censorship, Crowder warned, cannot stand. Now, of course, he may well be...
Hang on. Manny says, one of the wildest things I've seen in all of this was the fact that Destiny, a hardcore leftist, actually took Crowder's side in this and even thinks the Daily Wire is behind all of this too. Really? I was wondering if I should watch Destiny's reaction to it, because I was kind of like, I was just browsing the people who had reacted to this and looking at all their awful thumbnails, because they all have like the overly produced thumbnails where there's like, 50 million things going on, and the YouTuber's like, I'm never making thumbnails like that, by the way. Anyway, I saw Destiny's and I was like, I wonder what his take is on. He sided with Crowder and thinks the Daily Wire is behind it. See? Obviously.
Using the truth there, but once again, it does appear that he's reacting to a threat to control. Now, former Louder with Crowder host Dave Landau says Crowder routinely censored his commentary on the video podcast, and worse, allegation of hypocrisy. Landau opened up about leaving the popular show on You're Welcome with Michael Malice.
That's not hypocrisy, though, because it's Stephen Crowder's show. Stephen Crowder being censored for his opinion is different than Stephen Crowder saying, this is what I want on my show and this is what I do not want on my show, because it's his show.
Landau shared how he knows how to be a co-host in the modern era, witness his work alongside radio legend Anthony Cumia on Compound Media. He similarly supported Crowder during their time together, but in the final months of their professional relationship, Crowder kept Landau on a tight leash. I had been more censored as things went on. For example, I couldn't use the word ejaculate, Landau said. The restrictions didn't stop there. Landau alleged Crowder had a dump-style button to silence him if he spoke too much on the show, assertion of control. A light was put into the studio. It was his rant button, and it was basically a Dave, don't talk button. Landau recorded both the button and the light that flashed when it was deployed. When it was hit, I wasn't supposed to talk, and Crowder would press it.
See, I agree on this point, though, and I said this in one of my earlier streams. I absolutely believe that Stephen Crowder has control issues, and I think that the interview with Dave Landau, which I only watched a little bit of, I didn't watch that much, but the part that I did watch was explicit in its control issues. Like, basically, I watched the part where he was like talking about how Crowder put a clause in his contract that said if he's 5 minutes late, like, don't even bother showing up. I have worked with a lot of asshole CEOs in my day. I have never seen something like that. Like, if you don't trust someone to show up on time and you don't think they're going to act like an adult, then don't hire them. It's really that simple. And so based on that alone, I was like, oh, Steven Crowder has massive control issues. Also, the interactions he had with his wife, like telling her not to leave, can't take the car, obviously trying to control her. Like, I absolutely believe that there's there. And it's the main reason why I would why I might lean towards Steven Crowder being a narcissist is I do think that he has a lot of issues with control. Oh, he said he couldn't say come, not ejaculate. Okay, so we're being proper.
I know my job. I know that he talks a lot. I know that he's the star of the show. I know when to sit back. It's what I did with Anticumia for years. It's what I do, he said. I'm not ever trying to steamroll him. It was just, hey, don't be funnier than Crowder. That's the truth. I mean, it sounds bitter, but I knew it was true because I was pulled aside, and it was, make sure if you're doing a rant or you're riffing, he gets the last word, he said. You were told
Well,
this
it's his
explicitly?
show.
Malice asked. Yes. Even if I didn't have a funnier joke, even if I did have a funnier joke, I'd just leave it out. It was important for the fans to not hear it. I always thought it was my job as a comedian to leave out the good one, Landau deadpanned. Someone who's so pro-free speech and non-censorship, he was...
Is Dave Landau funny? Like, in real life, is he funny? I don't know. I don't watch him. But I do know that conservatives seem to like Chrissy Mayr, and Chrissy Mayr is not funny. Chrissy Mayr is not... She's not funny in, like, any way. I've tried to understand the fascination with Chrissy Mayr. I really did. I tried to find some redeeming quality. I watched way more of her content than any person should be subjected to, really trying to figure out why people think she's funny and she's not. Okay, people are saying that Dave is funny. Okay, I will try, because I'm seeing a lot of yeses, so I will trust your guys' judgment. But Chrissy Mayr is not effing funny. So that's why I was suspicious that he might not be funny too. Maybe he thinks he's funny, but he's really not. No, people are saying he's funny. All right, fair enough.
Really about censorship of me. Hypocrisy, he said, adding he was forgiving of the issue due to Crowder's medical woes at the time. The Michigan native later said Crowder's censorial mood extended to fellow comic Matt McClary. Landau planned a stand-up comedy special in Dallas, and Crowder asked to join the lineup. Landau agreed, knowing his colleague would help promote it. The initial show became 2 sold-out shows thanks to the Crowder connection. McClary, an off-screen Landau pal, opened both shows with material that earned a standing ovation. Landau then asked Crowder if McClary could co-host Louder with Crowder on a day when he wouldn't be there. Crowder agreed. Later, Landau learned McClary had been blocked from that guest co-hosting gig without explanation. Nullification of threat to control. Crowder texted, "What's done is done." Haughtiness, dismissiveness, according to Landau. What does that mean? It's your show, Landau recalled. Crowder called Landau up and yelled at him over the guest hosting issue and related topics. Exhibition of heated fury. He told me he owns me, Landau said of the heated conversation.
Really?
Objectification.
Wow.
It was venomous. I saw a different person that I had heard rumors about. Then he said Matt McClary couldn't do his routine's closing bit, which is killer, because it's too dirty. If we were going to tour together, he said. There was projection about he was angry about how well that bit did. The bit in question was a personal anecdote about McClary's high school wrestling days and his Asperger's syndrome. Crowder allegedly would tell Landau before their live performances to, let's keep it clean, despite the latter's penchant for dark adult material.
Do people, like, I don't know what to think about this claim that Steven Crowder is purposefully telling other people to, like, keep it clean. Has, like, Steven Crowder ever hurt himself? Do people think that's real? I mean, people seem to trust Dave Landau, so maybe it is. And Dave Landau did seem like pretty relaxed and, like, forthright in that interview with Malice, at least the parts of it that I saw. Do people actually think that that's real? That's weird. Does anyone else think that's weird? Allotrope with the super chat. Don't be funnier than Crowder. It's his show. Imagine telling Frank Zappa to hire someone to outshine his own guitar solos. No, it's his band. Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. If someone is funnier than me on my show, I'm going to try to use that. I'm going to try to take advantage of it to make the show better. So that would be my perspective. But, like, it's Crowder's show. Like, it's his show. Like, he can do whatever he wants. And, like, you know, we're not living in a little collectivist communist utopia here, guys. Not everyone gets a vote. And I can understand that perspective as well. All right, I want to go back to the poll. it turns out that 76% of you think that yes, Candace Owens did indeed extort Steven Crowder. I agree. And I think that based on the public stuff, because I understand exactly what Candace is doing. I've covered it in earlier videos, but I also think there was probably stuff going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. I think that Candace Owens had already set it up. This is my opinion. I could be wrong. Don't take this as the gospel. I think that Candace Owens had already set it up and already knew the Hillary Crowder footage was coming out when she did her first response video to Steven Crowder after Steven said that Candace extorted him. I think Candace was already working it out. And quite frankly, I think it already may have been in progress even before Steven Crowder said, announced his divorce. And I think Steven Crowder knew what was going on. It was like, because again, I think that this was a smear campaign. This is my opinion. I could be wrong. It's just gossip and hearsay. Could mean nothing. I think that the Daily Wire was actively looking for a way to get revenge on Steven Crowder for releasing the phone calls back in January, and they knew that Steven Crowder was getting a divorce. Candace Owens knew this. She sussed it out, and they used it to try to sneak in there to get one over on Crowder by taking advantage of Crowder's estranged wife. That's what I think happened. And I think that they got that information to Yasser Ali because why in God's name would Hillary Crowder go to Yasser Ali? That makes no sense at all. Why is Candace Owens giving interviews to the Daily Beast? That makes no sense at all. Candace Owens admitted that she knew it was coming out before it came out. I think we can all plainly see who is responsible for this.
Hypocrisy, assertion of control. Why? This has been me for 20 years, Landau said. Landau used the Malice Show appearance to reveal he signed a deal with Blaze TV to star in a video podcast sketch series set to debut in May or June. Interestingly, in the comments, somebody called Chad writes, Crowder's show is entertaining, but the guy is obviously an egomaniac. It's why he pulled the stunt he did with Daily Wire, and I'm not surprised by this.
Well, let's consider this question from Seed Fan, and I'm glad we're on a more even keel now, Seed Fan. I'm glad we worked it out. Couldn't couldn't Hillary going to that person be because he was politically opposed to Steven Crowder? Well, sure, Yasser Ali is opposed to Steven Crowder, fine, but why Yasser Ali specifically? Had Hillary Crowder met Yasser Ali? Did they have communication with Yasser Ali? It's just like, it's too weird. It's too random. It's not like Hillary Crowder could have very easily gone to the Daily Beast. Hillary Crowder could have very easily gone to any number of leftist, or it's like Seth Abramson, like Judd Legume, the guy that used to do Think Progress, but now he has his own newsletter. There are any number of people that Hillary Crowder could have gone to. Why did she choose Yasser Ali? Isn't Yasser Ali independent? Does Yasser Ali even have he has a Substack, fine, but it's just too weird, to be honest. But that's absolutely someone that I could see Candace going to if she needed someone to get information out there. I don't know. Again, this is just a hunch. I could absolutely be wrong. This is just an opinion. No one should take it as fact. I'm not making any formal accusations. I am just stating an opinion.
Phil writes below the line, oh, the hypocrisy. Mr. Daily Wire is evil for trying to censor me, Crowder. Oh, the hypocrisy.
Well, that's not the same thing.
Accordingly, it would appear that there is a hypocritical behavior with regard to the censorship of somebody else as part of a nullification of threat to control. But let us see what else has been stated about Mr. Crowder. Returning to the feud between Crowder and Owens, their feud dates back to January, when Crowder went public with a job offer that he'd received from the Daily Wire. In a clip from Owens' January show, she describes Crowder's actions as a possible result of personal distress. Stephen has a lot going on, I guess is the best way to say it. He has a lot going on, and that should be clear because people don't do stuff like this if there's not a lot going on in their life, Owens said in the clip. Well, actually, individuals may well engage in this behavior not because there's a lot going on in their life, but because their narcissism causes them to do so.
Well, no, Candace said that because Candace went and snooped. Candace went through Steven Crowder's social media and snooped to see what was going on with Steven Crowder and his wife to ascertain if they were still together. So she was being like rather specific in her accusations. And I'm going to bet that Candace Owens already had some inkling that something was going on. Because, again, like behind the scenes, it's like a goddamn knitting circle. These people gossip like all the time.
Spats with Ben Shapiro, with Candace Owens, with
the Daily Wire,
the comedian Landau. Instances of Crowder disclosing private information, showing a sense of entitlement, a lack of accountability, and poor boundary recognition. Triangulation with people, triangulation with children. Showing a response to perceived threats to control, showing the necessity of nullifying threats to control. Exhibition of heated fury, operation of facade.
Ooh.
The narcissistic indicators are certainly now starting to stack up.
Ooh, HG Tudor is moving towards Steven Crowder as a narcissist, it sounds like. But we still have 3 more videos to go. Now, guys, that is the longest video that HG Tudor did in this series. That was about 20 minutes long, so of course it took me an hour and a half to get through. And I promise I'll try to rein it in a little bit more with further videos because I do want to get to bed at some hour tonight. Allotrope says, it's a reasonable time for me in Australia. Does that mean it's an ungodly hour in New Hampshire? Well, it's almost 2 a.m. in New Hampshire, but I got back from a rock concert tonight around midnight, and I wanted to wrap up this Steven Crowder stuff so that I could move on with my life and talk about something different at 5 p.m. And so I was like, we're doing it live. We're doing it right now. We're doing late night. Plus, I stay up till like 3 or 4 a.m. every day anyway. Anyway, let's keep going. Video 5. God, now I'm getting Matt Walsh recommendations to my feed.
Steven Crowder, Narcissist, Part 5, Video Analysis. Hello, I'm HG Tudor, continuing to analyze the evidence to make a determination as to what Steven Crowder is. Crowder, of course, has appeared many times on YouTube and other platforms, espousing his various views as he's perfectly entitled to do so. But he also used that platform to talk about the issue of his divorce. Divorce is a private matter. I've been divorced. I didn't talk about it in a public forum. I deemed it was no need to do so. I was also, of course, able to nullify the threat to control that divorce posed through the legal channels. I didn't have to appear on some kind of alternative platform berating my ex-wife or being a crybaby, not that I ever am, about the way that I'd been treated. That, of course, is because I'm the ultra. I would deal with the threat to control that divorce poses in alternative means, behind the scenes.
HG Tudor calls himself the ultra to mean that he is like the most powerful of all narcissists, which I think is fabulous. I do.
Far more effectively. I don't need an audience to those things. However, many narcissists do, because they're ineffectual with regard to a direct assertion of control, and therefore their narcissism leads them to the indirect assertion of control, which basically means they have to bleat about how they've been treated, make out that it's totally unfair, bang on about the behavior of the other spouse to family, to friends, to neighbors, to therapists, to anybody who'll listen. And in certain instances, some narcissists take that to another level.
Ain't it the truth?
By broadcasting what is going on through television, media, blogs, YouTube, Rumble, Facebook.
God, one of the narcissists in my life is still to this day. I have not spoken to this person in a year and an effing half. Still to this day, broadcasting bullshit all over Twitter every day, obsessively. I mean, it is true that lower level narcissists will absolutely, and I know that better than almost anyone. God.
Etc. And that's all part of garnering that indirect assertion of control by complaining about the treatment of the other person, who invariably may well actually be the innocent victim, by making themselves out to be the victim, by whining about what has happened, by doling out the pity plays. They receive fuel from people sympathetic to their circumstances.
It's so
possibly
true.
Cause members of the coterie to go on the attack against the actual victim. And of course, because people agree that the way that the narcissist has been treated is awful, horrendous, disgusting, that sympathy, approval, and agreement gives them an unconscious sense of control over the ex-spouse. Accordingly, it is common for a narcissist, when facing divorce proceedings, even where they've instituted those proceedings themselves, to make a big song and dance about it all, either to people around them, friends, family, etc., or to take to a platform to talk about it further.
I do think there is something to be said for the fact that Hillary Crowder took Steven Crowder out of control, because Steven Crowder very publicly said that he didn't want to divorce Hillary Crowder, that it was her decision, and he basically insinuated excuse me, he basically insinuated that he didn't think that Hillary Crowder should be allowed to have that decision, which is a little weird, to be honest. Like, why are you trying to force someone to stay in a marriage they don't want to be in? But I do think there's something to be said for the fact that Hillary Crowder took Steven out of control when she filed for divorce. And then Steven Crowder, I mean, it was a long time afterwards, but we don't know what's going on behind the scenes with all the divorce nonsense. Like, Steven Crowder released the information publicly as a way to assert control over Hillary Crowder, or at least to reassert himself in the situation to gain the upper hand. Why would you spread rumors, allotrope? I would never get high on the internet. I don't know what you're talking about.
Steven Crowder has behaved in a similar way. Now, you might think to yourself, well, if you've been hard done to, would you not want to use your platform? Well, the short answer is no, because if you've got emotional empathy for the other person, irrespective of what they've done, you're more likely to remain quiet about it. You'll deal with it privately. And it is often a strong narcissistic indicator for someone basically to go on a public platform and talk about what has happened to them, particularly whilst it's ongoing. Crowder went on in a video to say, "It's never fun. I've been living with a proverbial oot," I'm not sure what he means there, "on my neck for going on years now. Since 2021, I've been living through what has increasingly been a horrendous divorce. Now, let me say at the outset, there is no infidelity, no kind of physical abuse on either side. And no, this was not my choice. My then wife decided she did not want to be married anymore." This is a...
Well, I mean, I wonder how he's going to react to the part where there's no infidelity, because one of the things that he teaches is that, like, narcissists will always, like, if they want to have, they don't want to be by themselves. They don't want to be caught in a position where they're not getting the fuel that they feel they are entitled to. And so they usually have some sort of like side piece going, or at least starting to string them along. So like, I kind of wonder how, and our narcissists have no gumption about like cheating on someone. They don't really care. So I kind of wonder how he's going to assess the fact that Steven Crowder says there was no infidelity.
pity play. Boo hoo hoo, poor me. I don't understand it why my wife is divorcing me.
Oh,
I don't get it. I can't understand why she's decided that she doesn't want to be with me any longer. It doesn't compute. I'm the marvelous Stephen Crowder. He therefore exhibits that sense of entitlement that she shouldn't be divorcing him. It exhibits a threat to control. And he's doling out a pity play, subconsciously seeking to cause the audience to side with him and be sympathetic to him. He continued by saying, "It's been the most heartbreaking experience of my life," pity play. "I consider it to be my deepest personal failure," false contrition. "And just so you know, my opinions on parenting and families have not changed. I always believe that children need a mum and dad. Divorce is horrible. But in today's legal system, my beliefs don't matter." That, of course,
hang on. Pineapple Girl says, because no-fault divorce is one of the majority factors in the deterioration of the foundational family structure, it takes away any and all responsibility to work out issues and secure stability. But, like, why are you trying to force someone to stay in a relationship with you that doesn't want to be in a relationship with you? I mean, like, that just makes no sense. That is signing up for misery on both sides, and it's also signing up for misery for the kids, to be honest about it. Like, so fun fact, my parents, I should not, it's 2 a.m. I can talk about this at 2 a.m. on the internet. My parents, after being married for 50 effing years, have just divorced. Or I guess it's not official yet, but, like, it's pretty much done. And, you know, I'm kind of like, I'm not upset about it because I think my parents should have gotten divorced a long effing time ago. Like, a long effing time ago. And to be honest, I'm not sure that my childhood, I there is part of me that thinks that my childhood would have been better if my parents, who should have gotten divorced a long time ago, had gotten divorced earlier. So, while I understand, like, working through problems, and I don't think that divorce should be, like, the first step that anyone takes. I mean, listen, I've talked about this publicly. Like, I've gotten into fights with my husband that look a lot like what happened with Stephen and Hillary Crowder. From both of us. If you took a 3-minute segment out of any real bad fight that my husband and I have had, and thankfully that hasn't happened in a while, but, like, either one of us would look horrible. And I think that's true of most married people. So I'm not saying divorce is the first step, but I am saying that being married is not always the right thing either. And sometimes you have to admit it and you have to move on with your life. And you should never want to try to force someone to be in a relationship that doesn't want to be in a relationship with you. You know? Yeah, Sequitur says, as someone from a divorced family, I'm thankful every day they divorced because living with one narcissist is enough, let alone two. And yes, they're both diagnosed. I bet that would be a goddamn nightmare. I agree with that. Longwing, though, if I had to take bets on who leaked this to the lefty journalist, I'd say it was either himself, her family, or Candace. I don't think it was Crowder. I think Crowder was really caught off guard about this. It could have, it absolutely could have come directly from her family. It definitely came from Hillary Crowder's divorce lawyers. But again, I go back to why Yasser Ali. Does Candace Owens have any connection with Yasser Ali? But if you're still in the chat, can you look up and see if Candace Owens has any connection to Yasser Ali? Because that's, again, that's weird to me. It just is. Why him? Philip said, he said they waited for marriage for sex. He now says he picked the wrong woman. He seems to have unrealistic expectations. Psychology go. Well, I think him saying he picked the wrong woman, what came out of hurt, anger, frustration. I mean, this has been going on for a while. I'm sure it can't be easy on him. And I'm sure that he's probably still grieving the relationship. Like, that to me, when he said, "I picked the wrong woman," that to me was hurt talking. I mean, haven't you ever been in a relationship with someone where you have, like, a really effing bad breakup and you're like, "It was such a mistake to get into a relationship with that person. I always knew it was a mistake to get," be and it's not that it was a mistake, it's that you are feeling very, very hurt. And saying that it was a mistake is sometimes the easiest way to deal with that. So that's kind of how I interpreted that. I didn't actually think that Steven Crowder was saying that he picked the wrong woman. I think it was his feelings talking. Longwing says this in no way benefits her to release it. Well, she absolutely released it. Like, there's no question that Hillary Crowder released it. It came from Hillary Crowder and her divorce lawyers with a statement from Hillary Crowder's family. So there is no way in this universe that Hillary Crowder was not involved in the release of this. As it brings her issues to public light and then tarnishes her kid's father for the rest of their life, I think it was ill considered. I think that, again, this is my intuition. This is not something that I know for sure. I would bet that Hillary Crowder was cajoled into doing this by her divorce lawyers and Candace Owens. Because guess what, guys? Divorce lawyers are never, ever, ever incentivized to, like, make a divorce go smoothly. The more chaos that divorce lawyers create in the process of facilitating the divorce, the more money they make. And so Hillary Crowder's divorce lawyers were absolutely incentivized to make this divorce as crazy as possible. And I can absolutely see a reality in which Hillary Crowder, who has not really been like a public person, like, I mean, she just didn't know what would happen. God, I've been doing this for 3 years. I've had firestorms around me and, I mean, for bullshit and nonsense. And like anytime it's happened to me, I've genuinely been surprised. Honestly. Like, the things that have gotten me in trouble, I have genuinely been surprised by them. Wasn't something I saw coming at all. And so she just might not have known, to be honest. Now I find that a little hard to believe. She's married to Steven Crowder. But oh, wait. Hang on. I got what you sent me, Brooklyn. We'll look at that in a second. I just want to take these other super chats. Let's see. Longwing says, it also has big damage implications in regards to Crowder, something I think she'd want to avoid when attempting to get alimony. It doesn't make sense. Well, it wasn't a decision that was made logically. It was a decision that was made based on feelings. Feelings and emotions are our primary decision driver. Like, no matter how logical you think you're being, the emotion center of the brain is much more powerful when it comes to making decisions than the logic center of the brain. And so most of our decisions are based in emotions. Even if you think you're thinking logically, you're probably not. They're probably based in emotions. There's a whole presentation I do. It's on the channel. It's actually one of the first videos I ever uploaded to this channel called Playing Politics. And so if you search for that presentation on my channel, you'll find it and you can find out more information about that. But no, I mean, I think she was hurt and she was probably cajoled into it by other people. Would be my guess. Just an opinion. I don't know that for sure. Longwing says, an altruistic family member, however, who is short-sighted, this would make sense. I actually am of the opinion it was Crowder himself. He has the incentive. Steven Crowder had no incentive to release that. I vehemently disagree with your assessment. I don't think it is, bro. It is obvious it came from Hillary Crowder. It had a literal statement, a multiple paragraph statement from Hillary Crowder's family. How did Steven Crowder get a multi-paragraph statement from Hillary Crowder's family? Makes no sense. Makes no sense at all. Oh, it seems as though Brooklyn is assessing that Candace Owens and Yasser Ali have been connected on more than one occasion. Hang on one sec, guys. I know you can't see what I'm looking at. That's interesting. I'll take a look at this as we continue the video.
Is representative of his victimhood and complaining about the fact that his views seemingly don't matter, presumably because in the divorce things aren't going his way. He stated also that many other people knew about this behind the scenes, powerful people, people in a position of influence, and it was necessary for the safety of his children.
Hang on, we got another super chat. Longwing, thank you for the super chat. He spoke about how this is feeling like extortion from Candace. If she was threatening to release it, he wanted to get ahead of it. How did he get a 4-paragraph statement from Hillary Crowder's family? He talked about the divorce. That's not the same thing as releasing a video that is explicitly cut out of context and edited in the middle of the video to make Steven Crowder look bad. There is no, bro, I don't know, like you must be on some really good drugs. I don't know what you're thinking right now. There is no way in this universe that Steven Crowder released that video. It was literally edited in the video at least twice to make him look like a monster. There is no reality in which Steven Crowder released that. If Steven Crowder was going to release a video, it would have been far more complimentary to him than that. And it wouldn't have come with a 4-paragraph effing statement from Hillary Crowder's family. I mean, if you want to keep paying me money to argue with me, I'll take it. I appreciate it. I really do. It makes him seem like he is being altruistic. I don't agree with that. And as though he wants the best, I really don't agree with that. But it also lets him feel he's in control when in reality he never has been and likely never will be. You are still not accounting for the fact that it had a 4-paragraph statement from Hillary Crowder's family. Did Steven Crowder just call up the parents of his estranged ex-wife and say, hey guys, I'm releasing a video that shows a private fight between Hillary and I so millions of people can see it on the internet. Would you guys like to provide a statement for me? Do you really think that happened in any universe? No. Sorry, I mean, you're paying me. I'm not going to argue, bro. Like you're buying your time here, and I appreciate it. Sorry for the spammy spam. Had a lot to articulate and not enough characters. I enjoy your content. I'm subbed now because of it. Have a little more. Well, thank you for that. I mean, I hope I can convince you at the end of the night that you're wrong, but I do appreciate the money.
To keep this private. He then went on to state, if you're familiar with the idea of extortion, you know the feeling well. Now, some of these threats were so thinly veiled, I'm surprised you didn't guess immediately. And this is reference to Candace Owens' comments about him. He then continued in the video, I will continue to do whatever is necessary to protect my children. Discussing the divorce on a public space is not what's best for them. Yet what is he doing? Discussing it on a public space. Once again, showing the hypocrisy of the narcissist of, I'm not going to do it, but actually I am doing it.
That was a little weird. I'll give him that.
I'll be going through proper legal channels and ask you to respect our privacy at what is a pretty tough time. Except you must respect my privacy, but I'm allowed to put it all out there because I'm allowed to do what I want. So this was one of the videos that he'd appeared in. The fact that he takes to a platform of itself, his showmanship, that he's doling out pity plays, he's showing a sense of entitlement, there's a lack of accountability for his behaviors, that he is exhibiting a particular way of conducting himself, that he is showing a lack of emotional empathy for other people that are affected by it. So that was one of the videos, but there's also another one, which I'm going to play for you now, for you to watch, and then I'm going to analyze it. Here it comes.
Commented on my ongoing divorce on Tuesday, requesting privacy in the best interest of the family, but also by court order agreed upon by all parties. Look, broken marriages are ugly, and in them people do ugly things. Myself, of course included, I would never claim otherwise. However, due to recent misleadingly edited leaks to the tabloid press without context and not subject to consequences of the court, well, if not privacy, the next best option is truth. So today, I have filed a motion to officially unseal all files as they relate to the matter of legal record, finances, relevant medical records, including mental health history or evaluations, depositions, and any motions or sanctions from the courts of Texas. I will not be leaking private marital information to the press, but if the privacy agreements are not respected by all parties, I will address all that is a matter of irrefutable legal record in full context next week.
Accordingly, once again, Crowder takes to a public platform, which is showmanship, a sense of entitlement.
Hang on. Steven Crowder had to make a public statement. I'm sorry. There was no ignoring this. Steven Crowder had to make a public statement. I don't think it's showmanship or any of that to make a public statement, being that his private life had just gotten dragged all over the internet in front of tens of millions of people, and that his fans were seeing him as a monster because it was an edited video that was part of an obvious smear campaign, in my opinion, on the part of the Daily Wire and Candace Owens, and they're leaving his platform, which he's just launched. Like, there was no way in this universe that Steven Crowder could get away with not making a public statement. Sorry, not sorry.
See the need to keep it private, even though, of course, he asks people.
Now, what I will say is I don't necessarily think that opening up all the court files is, well, the most logical or rational thing to do. I think it's a really effing bad idea. But Brooklyn is coming up with a lot of stuff that kind of says that Candace Owens has had run-ins with Yasser Ali on like more than one occasion. It's a little suspicious.
To respect his privacy, hypocrisy. He explains that he's putting the divorce out there but requests privacy, so hypocrisy. He talks about how broken marriages are ugly and in them people do ugly things, myself of course included. I would never claim otherwise. However, as to recent misleading leaks, so immediately, of course, he's saying, I'm not blameless, but this person has been worse than me, and there's been leaks of information, so I'm now going to respond to that. In effect, this is a threat to control, and he has to respond to it to nullify that threat to control. And therefore, he feels the need, publicly, not privately, but publicly, to tell the world that he's filed a motion to unseal various records about medical information, previous motions, etc., in the court of Texas.
It's a bad idea.
We don't need to know about that, but he, with his sense of entitlement, believes that everybody should know about it. He then goes on to state that if the privacy isn't respected, then basically he's going to be taking further action. Threat. He's saying, if you don't keep your mouth shut, I'm essentially going to try and make life very difficult for you. Going public in this way is demonstrative of his need to indirectly assert control. It shows an absence of emotional empathy for his children and for his ex-spouse. It shows a sense of entitlement to behave that way, a lack of accountability for his actions. It shows poor boundary recognition. It's manipulative in that he is utilizing the court proceedings in this way and that he's utilizing threat. So the various video appearances that Steven Crowder has made, the one that I spoke about earlier and also the short one that you've just seen, demonstrate a whole raft of narcissistic indicators. And the evidence continues to stack up. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.
All right, we got a couple more to go, guys. Now, I am still, oh, God dang it. I am still of the opinion that there is not like an out of this realm possibility that H.G. Tudor is like stringing us along and he's going to say, I know it might look like Steven Crowder's a narcissist, but I don't really think he's a narcissist for reason X, Y, B, and Z. I mean, maybe, But it is kind of like he's trying to mount a lot of evidence now. Now, I don't agree with his interpretation on everything. I really disagree with this notion that, like, you know, again, how could, I'm honestly asking for feedback in the chat. How could Steven Crowder have gotten through this entire situation without releasing a public statement? Now, again, I question whether or not the statement being, you know, unsealing the court. I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea that he's like unsealing the court documents or that he announced that publicly. That's going to create a much larger shit show than was already created. So I'm not questioning that. But is there any way in this universe that Steven Crowder just could have like come back for his show on Monday and been like, "Hey guys, how's it going?" Like, I mean, like how? Pineapple Girl, thank you for the super chat. I went through a horrific divorce. My ex submitted 10 out of 236 pages of my private diary to the courts. That sucks. My only defense was to submit the entire diary so the court had context. It was awful, but it was my only move. That sucks. I mean, I had a narcissist that was like, and I understand too, it's like, it's one of the most fucking infuriating things. One of my narcissists released our private text messages, and he even doctored some of them so that they had no resemblance to like what it actually was said, but he changed enough, and he did it like, I think he did it by editing the webpage, like editing the code and then taking a screenshot of it. Like he released our private text messages and then took things that were like jokes and twisted them so out of context to be like, Carlin is a horrible person, or he was just directly lying. And there were times when I could have released like our private communications to be like, asshole, here is the full context of what was said. And I did once or twice, and I felt so bad about it. Like, and I ended up deleting it because I was like, I can't be a person that does this. But it's like such a dick move, and it's so awful to do that. I am definitely not high on the internet, Allotrope. I don't know what you're talking about. Why do you guys keep accusing me of this? But I'm really sorry that happened to you, Pineapple Girl. That sucks. Longwind D-Train says, apologies, I'm a few minutes late, a few minutes behind and didn't realize it. It is perfectly possible that he leaked the footage to Yasser and Yasser reached out to him. No, bro. No, that didn't happen. Again, Longwind, I appreciate you. I appreciate all the super chats you sent tonight. I just think you really need to hinge yourself back into reality. This came from Hillary Crowder. All right, let's go into our next video. Part 6, guys. Almost there. 20 minutes left. So it'll only take about an hour. I would... I am completely sober. Obviously.
Steven Crowder, Narcissist, Part 6. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor, bringing my expertise on narcissism to bear with the analysis of Steven Crowder, somebody that was known to many of you, but not known to quite a lot of people also, but has gained increasing prominence as a consequence of a leaked video showing him berating and abusing his wife. Well, we're going to examine that video footage to break it down for you in terms of what we're actually seeing. So, here we go.
Oh, good.
I drew a boundary. No, you just did it. I drew a boundary of abusive and cruel. You were not taking the car. Because if you refuse to do wifely things, then I will go pick up the groceries.
There is no groceries. I do have
steaks, wood pellets, my grill. I know it's not a reasonable request, but I'll go do it. How about you first? Hillary, how do you respect the man? Yes, other than that, you see the love of that. No, other than that, no, you're not taking the car. You're not taking the car. You are not.
Then I will ask them to pick me up. Would you like me to ask?
Right?
It's not correct, Steven.
Get an Uber.
Okay, Steven, I can't.
You want to walk out right now? Listen to me. I can't go to the gym. I can't go to my parents. I can't call my friends. I can't be home. You're going to take the car and leave me here. Hillary, just think of how boxed in you've made me.
What do you need me to pick up? I'll get it. I'll be back when I'm back.
No, that doesn't work either. You'll be back when you're back. That doesn't work either.
As you can see in the video, his wife is heavily pregnant, apparently 8 months pregnant at that time.
With twins.
Accordingly, she is carrying considerable weight around, and notice that he's sat down while he's berating her, that he's content for her to be made to keep standing while she's carrying this weight, and indeed,
well, she could have sat
that
down.
she appears to be the one that's having to undertake some chores. He states, I drew a boundary. This is him asserting control over her. He then projects by suggesting that she breaks the boundary when actually it's him. He then states to her, you are not taking the car. He's dictating to her.
We don't know what boundary he's talking about, and we don't know what she did prior to the video. I know I've beaten this dead horse over and over and over again, but this is a 3-minute video that had an edit in the middle of it. We don't know what happened before the video. We don't know what happened after the video. So to say that Hillary Crowder didn't break some sort of boundary, we don't know. Maybe she did, maybe she didn't. But I disagree with that assessment that she did not do something, because we don't know what she did or didn't do.
Her, another human being, that she can't use a shared asset, and he's triangulating her with that vehicle to assert control over her by explaining that she's not allowed to use it. He then goes on to state, because if you refuse to do wifely things, condescending. He has a notion of how she should behave, yeah. Namely that she is beholden to him, that she is his wife, and therefore it's written in stone that she has to behave in a particular way, which accords with his need for control. He then states, because if you refuse to do wifely things, then I'll go and pick up the groceries. I think the suggestion there is that she should be the one that's doing that, and therefore he deems that her role rather than something he should do. But he's saying, if you're not going to do it, then I'm the one that's going to have to do it, but you are abrogating your responsibilities and duties. He certainly doesn't see her as an equal. He then states, you first, Hillary, how do you respect the men? He evidently deems that there should be respect given rather than earned. And then he states again, no, you're not taking the car. Accordingly, his wife, in response to that, states, okay, who would you like me to ask? I.e., ask someone to give her a lift into town. His response is interesting and is demonstrative of what he is, because he immediately responds with, what? Is that a threat? Now,
I want to just bring in Sequitur's chat here. You can have narcissistic personality traits or do narcissistic things when under stress without actually being a narcissist. Well, Stephen is definitely a dick. That doesn't make him a narcissist. I kind of agree with this. Again, I've gone back and forth on whether or not I think Stephen is a narcissist. And it's because he does do things that a narcissist would do. But I don't necessarily think he has a personality disorder. I just think sometimes he's a dick. And you're right that like every single person can have narcissistic personality traits. Like if we had no narcissism, we wouldn't take care of ourselves. So I don't know. I'm torn. I really don't know what I think.
Let us assume it was reasonable for him to state that he needed the car and she couldn't take it. It would follow that it would be reasonable for her to say, right, okay, since I can't use the car, I'm going to have to get a lift off somebody else. So who do you think I should ask? He interprets that as a threat. And the reason being, of course, is that his narcissism recognizes that she's going to have to say, Stephen won't let me use the car, therefore I need a lift. And that exposes his behavior. Accordingly, although she might not be...
Got a super chat from Murphy's Pool. What are wifely things? Well, that annoyed me when he said that too. I think that in this case, I think that Hillary was supposed to go grocery shopping and get Steven stuff for his grill. and she didn't for whatever reason. And so Stephen was saying that she was like abdicating her wifely duties. But there also could be other interpretations of that. But like keeping in mind that Hillary Crowder is like 8 months pregnant with twins, I'm not so sure that like Stephen Crowder was like, demanding sex or anything. Maybe he was. I don't know. But I think he had the expectation that she was going to get stuff for the grill, and she did not.
Deeming it to be a threat. Remember, how she perceives it is irrelevant. How she intends it is irrelevant. It's how he perceives it. And it would appear that in this point in time, he perceives her suggestion that she asked for a lift from somebody else as a threat to him. She states it's not a threat. He then dismissively states, get an Uber. So he expects his heavily pregnant wife not to use the car, but instead jump in and out of an Uber. She explains that she can't. It then flicks forward and he states, you want to walk out right now. I can't go to the gym. I can't call my parents. I can't call my friends. You're going to take the car and leave me here. It's not clear why he can't call those people or go those places. But the fact is that he's whining to her. He's doling out a pity play, saying all the things that he's not able to do in order to try and make her feel guilty. He then continues with this by saying, Hillary, just think of how boxed in you've made me. Blame shifting, projection, pity play. She then states, what do you want me to pick up? I'll be back when I'm back. Of course.
I still think it's weird that they only had one car. Like, I mean, they must own at least 2 cars. Why don't they own 2 or 3 cars? Like, and some people are saying like maybe Hillary's car was in the shop. Okay, fine. But like, you guys know, like when your car breaks down and it goes into the shop, like you can get a rental car because you might still need to drive places, especially in a place like Austin. So that is still very confusing for me. Like, why didn't she have a car?
Of course, her saying that she's going to go and do something herself is another threat to his control, and he immediately seeks to nullify that by saying, no, that doesn't work either. Accordingly, in this exchange, he's dismissive, he's haughty, he's condescending, he's provocative, he engages in blame shifting and projection, he doles out pity plays, he shows an absence
Hang on, I got a super chat coming in from Longwing. Crowder owns an SUV and bought his wife a Tesla. Okay, where was it? And if it was in the shop, why didn't she have a rental car or something to get her around? Because again, it's like if your car goes into the shop for a couple days, like you get a rental car. At least that's always what's happened with me.
Of emotional empathy. He shows entitlement to treat his wife like an object. He shows no accountability for his behaviors, and he is manipulative. Now, let's see more of the footage.
The only way out of this is discipline and respect. It's the only way out of it, or we're at an impasse.
We are at an impasse.
Good. Because you can't have any discipline and respect. Yeah. There you go. You throw your hand, you give up so easily.
I don't give up so
easily. You give up so easily. I just said the only way out of this is discipline and respect. You said, then we're at an impasse.
Stephen, no, we are at an impasse, okay? I love you, but Stephen, your beast is sick. Your beast
Watch it.
is sick.
Watch it. Watch it.
I'm gonna let go. I'll get what you need me to get. And I need some space. We need to just stop engaging for a little bit. Okay? I love you. I love you very much.
I don't love you. That's the big problem. I've never received love from you. And the fact is, when I go, look, I need you to do A, B, C, and D, you just be disciplined about it. You go, no. But I love you more than life itself. Okay. Put on some gloves.
Crowder commences by stating the only way out of this is discipline and respect. Haughtiness, condescension. It's the only way out of it when we're at an impasse. Hillary then states, we're at an impasse. He responds, good, because you can't have any discipline and respect. Belittlement. Yeah, there you go. You give up so easy. Invalidation and belittlement. Hillary, I don't give up. Challenge fuel. Threat to his control. Crowder, you give up so easily. I just said the only way was discipline and respect. You said that we are at an impasse. Criticizes her in order to put her down and assert control over her. Hillary responds, Stephen, no, we are at an impasse. Okay, I love you. I love you, but Stephen, your abuse is sick. So she provides him with some pure positive fuel by saying, I love you, but then immediately challenges him by saying that he is abusive. His response to that is, watch it, watch it. He's giving her a warning about her conduct. Hillary responds, I'm going to let it go. I'm going to get what you need me to get, and I need some space. I love you. Although she's providing him with positive fuel, he sees it through the lens of her being painted black because of these repeated threats. And therefore he responds with, I don't love you. That's
HG Tudor is starting to talk a lot more in this video, like he's evaluated that Steven Crowder is a narcissist. And so I'm going to make the assumption that the answer that we're going to get in the next video, because when he says painted black, what that means is like for a narcissist, you're either painted white, which means you are in the good graces, or you are painted black, which means you have disappointed the narcissist in some way, and they are going to dole out punishment to you on the basis of like you disappointing them, and they're going to devalue you and they're going to say horrible things. And so based on the fact that HG Tudor just said for Steven Crowder, she was painted black, that leads me to believe that he has evaluated that he's a narcissist. But I'm curious to hear his reasoning, and I'm curious to hear about what type of narcissist he thinks he is. I'm still not sure if I agree with this, because I don't agree with, and again, I'm not trying to blame HG Tudor for this. I'm just saying that I don't think he has all the information, and I don't blame him for that, because again, there's like a lot of nerdy stuff in this that only insane people really know, because we're the ones paying close attention to this. He's not paying close attention to this shit, okay? He has like way better things to do than this. And so I understand why he doesn't know the information. I understand why he's reading things like the Daily Beast, because they're one of the places that are going to be covering this prominently, even though they are obviously leftist. Like, I get it, but I just really disagree. I wouldn't say, Josie, I wouldn't say he's ignoring it. I would say I don't know that he has found the information or has been given. How many people that are actually in this space don't know the things that we've talked about in regards to this situation? It's perfectly likely that he just doesn't know. And it's like one of those things where if you don't go looking for it, you're not going to find it. And so I don't blame him, to be honest. He's obviously done his homework on a lot of stuff. He's watched a lot of things. He watched the Malice interview. I haven't even watched the Malice interview. He went in, like, so it's not like he hasn't done his homework. I just think he hasn't come across some of the information that we understand.
The big problem. I've never received love from you. This shows the compartmentalization of the narcissist and, of course, his immediate hypocrisy. She has just been saying to him, I love you, I love you.
Yeah.
So to say that he's never received love from her is clearly nonsensical. But his narcissism, evidently at this juncture, is demonstrating a need to compartmentalize and suggest that she has never loved him, which of course would cause confusion for her. She knows that she's loved him. She also knows that she's demonstrated that love to him. How on earth can he sit there and say, I've never received love from you? But this, of course, is the berating pity play that certain narcissists would engage in. He continues, and the fact is, when I go, look, I need you to do A, B, C, and D. You just need to be disciplined about it. You go, no, but I love you more than life itself. He mocks her, engages in a form of word salad. What he's saying doesn't really seem to make sense. So once again, he's exhibiting in this exchange haughty behaviors towards her. He's dismissive, belittles her, invalidates her, doles out a pity play. He denies her reality by suggesting that she has never loved him, invalidating her feelings. He continues to face threats to control by what she's saying. He issues threats and warning, and he seeks to nullify threat to control. There are a whole host of narcissistic indicators in this footage. Now, if this was viewed of itself and we knew nothing more about Crowder, we could say, well, this footage is particularly concerning in that there are lots of red flags. But we don't know the history between these two. We don't know what he's done elsewhere.
Thank you.
And therefore, whilst you would say there are certainly red flags in what you're witnessing, you wouldn't be able to say just off this footage alone that he's a narcissist. What you would say is, I'd want to see more about his behaviors, learn more about his conduct to make a determination, to put this in context. Because it could have been, for instance, that she had repeatedly caused problems for him, and that there's been a diminution in his emotional empathy for her, causing him to respond in this way on this particular occasion. And if she were a particularly manipulative individual, she just discloses this to portray him as the abuser, when in actual fact, he's the one that's been on the receiving end. So one has to keep that in mind, that there are, of course, always two sides to these matters. And that whilst the behavior in itself shows lots of narcissistic indicators for him, it could be that there's a wider explanation as to why he's behaving like that that is not narcissism. Of course, we have been examining lots of other behavior, which have shown other narcissistic.
No, we haven't been examining lots of other things. We've been examining a few things over the course of Steven Crowder's, 10, 15-year career? So I don't agree with the assessment that we've examined like lots of other things. We've examined a couple of things that are cherry picked to, portray a certain thing. But what about all the times that Steven Crowder, what about every single episode of Change My Mind where Steven Crowder does not behave like a narcissist? What does that say about him? It's like when you're looking for evidence that someone is a narcissist, I promise you can find it. Because everyone has narcissistic traits. Everyone can lash out. Everyone can say awful things. Everyone can be self-interested. I mean, anytime you're going up for promotion, guess what? That's a narcissistic act. Anytime you're like checking yourself out in the mirror and you think you look really good tonight, that's a narcissistic act. It is a narcissistic act to stare into a webcam for hours every day at almost 3 a.m. in the morning and say, you know what? People on the internet will value what I think enough to give me a $20 super chat like Pineapple. Like, that's a narcissistic act in and of itself. And so, like, people, if you want to find reasons to say that someone is a narcissist, you will find those reasons. But I think the important thing is to look for, like, okay, what about all the other times? I don't know. Pineapple Girl, thank you for that super chat and for being a unwitting participant in my example here. My husband didn't want me driving starting my 3rd trimester because he had read a statistic about car accidents and pregnancy, and I was mad. After I held our firstborn, I never questioned the rule. He was protecting our future. Maybe that's what Steven Crowder was doing. Maybe that's it. I don't know.
Indicators which suggest that this is more likely to be driven by narcissism than a reduction in emotional empathy as a consequence of her behavior, but rather that he has no emotional empathy to begin with. But we will find out whether that is the case as I pull all of these strands together in the forthcoming conclusion.
All right.
I'm HG Tudor.
Guys, we made it. We made it. We are to part 7 of the epic series. HG Tudor is about to give us his evaluation. Are you guys ready to learn whether or not Steven Crowder is a narcissist? Go ahead and mount that like button for me. We don't smash the like button on my channel. We mount the like button like adults. So we've got about 8 minutes left to go. I am ready to hear the conclusion. I want the official ultra narcissist diagnosis. Let's find out. We're almost there, Reagan. Bed is calling. So close.
Steven Crowder, Narcissist, Part 7. Hello, I'm HG Tudor. Well, we have seen video footage. I have viewed other footage of Crowder that I haven't included in my analysis.
There is still a part of me that really wants HG Tudor to say, I'm sorry, but he is not a narcissist for reasons X, Y, B, and Z, even though he is exhibiting narcissistic tendencies. I really want that to happen because, again, most funny possible conclusion, right? If he has strung us along for 6 effing videos and then he announces that Steven Crowder is not actually a narcissist because there's other things going on, that would be the most hilarious conclusion. I'm hopeful. I don't think that's what's going to happen, but we can dream for another 30 seconds or so.
It's in order not to make it too lengthy. I've read other articles about him. As is always the case when I undertake the analysis of individuals, when I put them under the Tudor scope, I look at a lot more evidence than just that which I tell you about to ensure that we have a comprehensive range of material from different sources and that it is seen over a sustained period of time to ensure that we're not just looking at a snapshot, because a snapshot of anybody's behavior could have them labeled a narcissist, but is not representative of their actual behaviors at the time. We've examined the fact that he had a dispute with the Daily Wire. We've looked at the comments that have been made about other people, his involvement in the 2012 union protest, his banning from YouTube as a consequence of comments that he's made about other people. We've watched the video footage of him talking about his divorce and his response to that, the berating of his 8-month pregnant wife, the threat of lawsuits with regard to Candace Owens, the information from Mr. Landau. So we've looked at a comprehensive range of material. And what does this tell us? Well, it shows that Steven Crowder exhibits a sense of entitlement. He's an individual that orders people around and he expects an immediate response to that. He's self-absorbed. He expects perfection from others. He lacks accountability. He's told lies. He doesn't operate with any genuine friends. He doesn't provide meaningful emotional support to his wife. He behaves without manners. He doesn't stick to deals that have been made. He engages in a failure to apologize for his behaviors to his wife. He doesn't address the relationship issues in a meaningful fashion from what has been evidenced and explained. There is clear grandiosity. He has a platform which he repeatedly uses, and he thinks that he's worth far more than has actually been offered for that platform. He engages in showmanship.
Again. The Daily Wire drastically undercut what Steven Crowder is worth. I come on. You cannot use that as an evaluative tool to say the Daily Wire only thinks he's worth $50 million, but excuse me, that's wrong. I'm doing that wrong because it's late. The Daily Wire thinks he's worth $50 million, and that is the end-all be-all of what he's worth. The fact is that Steven Crowder is going to make $50 million, possibly more, much more, in less time than what the Daily Wire offered him. Even now, even with all this bullshit, Steven Crowder is going to make significantly more money than $50 million over 4 years.
He's better than he actually is. He's prone to exaggeration. There is some boasting. He engages in monologues. He dominates conversation.
He engages in monologues? He's a host.
He engages in haughty behaviors. He badmouths family. He badmouths colleagues. He's condescending. He's rude. He's dismissive. He holds court. He's arrogant. He believes that he's always right. He deems people to be stupid. He operates with a closed mind. He has a reputation for being difficult. He engages.
Listen, man, if deeming people to be stupid is evidence of being a narcissist, fucking guilty. I don't even care. I don't want to live in a world where I can't call out stupid people for being stupid. It's just the reality. I have like an IQ threshold on my channel. You cannot be in my audience if you don't have an IQ of at least 100. It doesn't work. So fine. If I'm a narcissist for calling people stupid, fine. Then I'm a fucking narcissist.
In a substantial range of manipulations, including flattery, bribery, the telling of lies, future faking, triangulation with object, triangulation with person. Pity plays, smearing, promised gain, false compassion, false contrition, invalidation, belittlement, withdrawal, denial, guilt, provocation, projection, blame shifting, word salad, triangulation with children, use of threat, forbidden topic, use of insult, exhibition of fury, revision of history,
Wow.
shouting.
Don't say that around HG Tudor. He'll get all jealous, but I appreciate that. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's gonna get clipped out of context before my head even hits the pillow tonight.
Alienation, feigned misunderstanding, argumentativeness, not good enough, intimidation, deflection, false accusations, isolation, cross-examination, accusations out of nowhere, vagueness, finding fault, circular conversations, bringing up the past. He has poor boundary recognition in terms of interference in relationships, transgression of professional boundaries, talking over people, interrupting people, breaches of confidence, taking over space. He shows various aspects of the narcissistic dynamic in terms of facade management, treating others as an extension of self, character trait acquisition, black and white thinking, the exhibition of the need to assert control, the exhibition of a response to a perceived threat to that control, hypocrisy, the exhibition of envy, objectification, compartmentalization, paranoia, hoovering, one-upmanship,
When did he
use of hunting
hoover?
grounds, delusion, competitiveness, use of pet names, conspiracy theorist, use of shelving dynamic,
Wait,
dropping
what?
the narc bomb.
What? Conspiracy theorists are narcissists? But they're always right. Like, how does being a I know he has a series on conspiracy theorists that he's done, but like, how does being a conspiracy theorist make you a narcissist, especially if the conspiracies turn out to be correct? That makes no sense.
Micromanagement, superficiality. He therefore scores across those fields. He shows a lack of emotional empathy as a consequence of his behaviors. It's very clear that as a consequence from the clear evidence of a sense of entitlement, the significant evidence of a lack of accountability, the significant evidence of grandiosity, the significant evidence of haughty behavior, the substantial evidence of manipulative behavior, poor boundary recognition, and substantial aspects of the narcissistic dynamic, combined with the lack of emotional empathy, that Steven Crowder is indeed a narcissist.
Ooh, what
He
type?
scores heavily from the evidence that has been
What
portrayed,
type?
and I should imagine that based upon that, there's a whole raft of additional evidence that has taken place behind the scenes at home that we are not yet privy to, that undoubtedly that his wife may speak about more in terms of video evidence of the way that he has behaved, her own testimony of other family members that may well come out in the ongoing divorce proceedings, all demonstrating that he is an abusive and unpleasant man. As an individual that operates with a clear facade, he believes himself to be decent, God-fearing, that he's on the side of the righteous, but his behaviors demonstrate that he's abusive towards his wife. He may be abusive towards his children.
I mean, listen, like, based on the list of behaviors that HG Tudor just mentioned, like, pretty much every person on the internet is a narcissist. Every single person on Twitter is a narcissist. I mean, I think it's a bit much, but I'm willing to hear him out.
We don't know about that. He's abusive towards other individuals with the smearing that goes on, with the name calling, but he just passes it off as banter, as joking. But all of this stacks up. The evidence speaks for itself. Accordingly, by having looked at this raft of evidence that has come together over a sustained period of time, which we've taken from a variety of different sources, video evidence, his own statements on video, testimony from other people, interviews, news articles, etc. This has enabled us...
Hang on. We got a troll in the chat. Y'all can't handle the truth. Roz, it makes no effing difference to me if he is or isn't. I'm not even a fan of his. I just like the psychology of the situation. So if he's a nerd, like, fine, it makes no difference to me. I just don't agree that people who have characteristics from that laundry list to include calling people stupid, to include like being a conspiracy theorist, to include like, I mean, I like, you know, doing things that quite literally every single person on the internet does. There is a case to be made for Steven Crowder. I'm not sure that this is the case I would have chosen, but I could have very easily been convinced. I'm just not convinced based on the list of characteristics that I heard and things that I know.
To pull all of this information together to make the determination. There then, of course, remains the question of what is his school and cadre. Those of you that are familiar with my work know there are 4 cadres: somatic, cerebral, victim, and elite. What cadre do you believe that he falls into, based upon the evidence that you've seen? Then there's the question of his school. Do you believe that he belongs to the lesser? And if so, which sub-school? What about mid-range?
Middle upper.
Do you think he's a mid-range narcissist? Why do you think that? What sub-school would you see that he belongs to within mid-range? Perhaps you see him as a greater. And
I think that he's going to be like an upper mid-range. Because I don't think that H.G. Tudor thinks that he is conscious that he's a narcissist. So that's going to put him. I don't think he's lower. I don't think that Steven Crowder would be as successful as he is if he was lower. So I think he's going to be middle range, like mid-range, like middle mid-range, upper mid-range, something like that. And I think it's going to be somatic. Pineapple Girl, watch Fresh and Fit's take on the situation. It's completely different than Tudor's take, which is a good way to get another angle. Maybe I will. Obviously not tonight. But thank you, Pineapple Girl. I do appreciate it. Yeah, like, how can't we handle the truth? We just acknowledged that everyone does a lot of the things that H.G. Tudor named. Yeah, I mean, we're all narcissists now.
An aware narcissist knows exactly what he's doing, that this is all calculated, that he's become a wealthy man as a consequence of his known manipulations of individuals. And if so, where do you see him within those sub-schools? Before I tell you what school and cadre he is, why don't you apply what you've learned from me, and in the comment section, state what you believe that he is, both in terms of school and cadre. I look forward to reading your comments before I provide you with the outcome.
No!
Meanwhile, I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.
You rat bastard! He is continuing to string us along. What a dick. No offense. I say that with the greatest admiration. What a dick. Ah, see? Yes, you were right. You were right. You psychicked that it would be 8 parts, and it does indeed look like it will be 8 parts. Why would he do this to us? God damn it. Well, this is such a narcissist move to to string us along and get us all excited. And I had even made a prediction that he's going to be like a middle mid-range or middle like upper range narcissist, like a somatic narcissist, because I think that's the one where like you're in your head, but like you also like are obsessed with your body. And obviously Steven Crowder is obsessed with his body, like obviously. Okay, let's go and see. Let's at least take a look at some of the comments on the video to see what other people are saying. Maybe at least we can get some satisfaction there, because H.G. Tudor is teasing us again with his assessment. Let's see. Engages in pity plays. This one thinks, no, H.G. Tudor is not a greater narcissist. I agree. I do not think that he's going to be a greater narcissist. I suspect he's upper mid-range somatic, which is what I said. Let's see. This person says lower mid-range. I don't agree with that, obviously. Lower. Steven Crowder is not a lower narcissist. Definitely not. He is not a victim narcissist. No, I don't agree with the comments on H.G. Tudor's channel at all. Like a lot of these people are going to be like leftists that are commenting on his channel, and they're going to completely underestimate HG Tudor's they will not underestimate HG Tudor's intelligence. A lot of them are. Weird side note, I think a lot of HG Tudor's audience are actually like in love with him, which is weird. It's weird. But they get like obsessed with him. It's fascinating to watch from a psychological perspective. Anyway, I think a lot of his audience are going to underestimate Steven Crowder's intelligence because he is very, very smart. So I don't think he's a victim narcissist. I don't think that he's a lower level narcissist. I think that he's got more game than people give him credit for. I cannot believe that he is leaving us hanging again. He even put conclusion in the thumbnail. Why would he do this to us? All right, well, I guess, at least we know that HG Tudor does think that Steven Crowder is a narcissist. I'm not quite there. I've waffled. I started kind of thinking like, maybe. And then I thought, maybe not. And then I went back to maybe. And what I am definitely not is I am definitely not 100% that I believe that Steven Crowder is a narcissist. And maybe that's because I understand this game he's playing in terms of the space that he's in and things that happen in the space. I don't know. There's something off. I don't know. Now, that's not to say I don't think he does narcissistic things. Of course he does. Of course he does narcissistic things. Absolutely, 100%. But I'm not there yet in actually thinking that he is narcissistic personality disorder. Now, Candace Owens, on the other hand, is absolutely a narcissist, and HG Tudor should evaluate Candace Owens. It would be far more fascinating than Steven Crowder. And Candace Owens deserves it. And I think that should be the next conservative commentator that he does. Does he do live streams or podcasts? Like sometimes. All right, guys, that's all I've got for tonight because it is 3 a.m. and I need to go to bed because I got to get up early tomorrow and do stuff that I thought I was going to do this weekend, but I did not get a chance to do this weekend because I ended up getting dragged into other bullshit. Anyway, guys, thank you for spending some time with me tonight on Late Night Stream and listening to Narcissist, and I appreciate it. I will be back at 5 p.m. Eastern Time talking about things that are far more important than Steven Crowder. I'm really hoping we can move on from Steven Crowder. I can't guarantee it because there might be breaking news. Who knows? There might be more juicy gossip for us to analyze. But it was nice to spend some time with you guys today. I usually don't stream on Sundays. I will see you soon. Have a great rest of your night. Go get some rest. Guys, email fucking HG Tudor and tell him to do Candace Owens. Please. If you want HG Tudor to do Candace Owens, can everyone please say he has a designated email address that you can email him suggestions. Please email him and ask him to do Candace Owens, please. We all need this in our life. Everyone should promise to buy at least one of HG Tudor's books if he will do Candace Owens for us. That would be amazing. That would be the best thing that's ever happened. All right, guys, I'm going to bed. Have a good one. We'll see you soon. Bye.